Hi, and welcome back to the Weekly Thing. Because of the coronavirus pandemic, things are obviously looking pretty bleak for the 2020 NFL season. That being said, the league allowed all teams to hold training camps, and there haven't been any announcements about canceling or delaying regular season games yet. At least for now, it seems like the NFL is still planning to go full steam ahead into the season. We don't know which players are going to end up testing positive, and when or if games will be postponed or canceled, which makes it pretty absurd to do playoff predictions, but we're going to do them anyway. Even if the coronavirus pandemic never happened, this year's playoffs would still be a lot different than what we're used to. The big change is the addition of a 7th playoff seed in each conference. This is also going to change the playoff format a little bit. Previously, the top 2 seeds in each conference got a first-round bye. Now, only the number 1 seed will get the bye, leaving seeds 2 through 7 to duke it out on wildcard weekend. Now that we're clear on everything, let's get to the predictions. Let's start with the NFC. Obviously, I'm not some kind of NFL expert, but I'm just going to go with my gut and try to give a little reasoning. Feel free to yell at me about how I'm wrong in the comments. Without further ado, the number 1 seed in the NFC is going to be the New Orleans Saints. They've got a star quarterback, star receiver, star running back, stars on defense, some guy named Taysom Hill who just kind of does everything, and a great coach. They've probably only got a year or 2 left before their championship window closes, and with this roster, they've got to burst through sooner or later. Despite what should be a tough division, this might finally be their year. This next pick might be a bit more surprising, but I think the 2nd seed is going to be the Seattle Seahawks. I'm not 100% sure of this pick by any means, but Seattle makes the playoffs pretty much every year, and frankly, any team that has Russell Wilson at QB is a contender. The Seahawks were just a few yards away from beating the NFC champion 49ers for the division title last year, and with some better injury luck in the running game, I think a successful season is in the cards. At number 3 in the NFC, we've got the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that somehow managed to crawl into the playoffs last year despite being ravaged by injuries. They're a talented team in a weak division, only 2 years removed from a Super Bowl win, so it'll be interesting to see what they can do with Carson Wentz at QB if they can finally catch a break as far as injuries. The final division winner in the NFC this season is going to be the Green Bay Packers. A lot of NFL fans see the Packers as a prime candidate to regress this season, and it's pretty easy to see why. The Packers finished 13-3 in 2019, but they honestly weren't as good of a team as their record showed. They went 8-1 in one-score games, which is a little bit because of their skill in clutch situations, and a little bit because of sheer luck. Either way, we can assume they're not going to have quite that level of success in close games next year. But here's the thing about the Packers. I'm used to Aaron Rodgers dragging terrible rosters to the playoffs year after year. But last year, even though it wasn't a fantastic season for Rodgers by his high standards, because of a strong defense and running game, he didn't have to carry the team. And that should scare everybody in the NFC. Now for wildcard teams. In the first wildcard slot, the 5th seed, we have the San Francisco 49ers. The big elephant in the room regarding the 49ers is the dreaded Super Bowl hangover, which clearly affected the Rams last year as they missed the playoffs a year after their Super Bowl loss. But I don't see that happening with this team. The Rams tried to buy a Super Bowl through free agency, they lost, and then everything came crashing down. The 49ers truly seem to be a team built for the long haul. A classic ground-and-pound offense with a run game, great tight end play, and a fantastic defense. I think they'll be hungry for a Super Bowl title after their heartbreaking loss last season, and they'll pick up right where they left off. In the 6th seed, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to qualify for the playoffs for the first time in over a decade. There's obviously been a lot of hype surrounding this team ever since they signed Tom Brady, so it's fair to wonder if they can meet the lofty expectations. I don't think they'll be winning a Super Bowl or anything, but the Bucs have a great coach in Bruce Arians and an absolute dream team on offense. Not only is Tom Brady probably the greatest quarterback to ever play the game, but he's surrounded by what might be the best weapons in the league, with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans at receiver, not to mention one of the greatest tight ends of all time, Rob Gronkowski, catching passes. I think it's safe to say the Bucs are playoff bound in 2020. The 7th seed and final team to qualify for the playoffs in the NFC this season will be the Chicago Bears. Of course, I'm a homer, I'm biased, whatever, I get it, but hear me out. The Bears' offense resembled an elementary school flag football team last year, but despite this absolute incompetence on offense and injury struggles on defense, they managed to finish 8-8. An already great defense will almost definitely improve this year with a healthy Akeem Hicks and the addition of Robert Quinn to the pass rush opposite Khalil Mack. The tight end situation was upgraded via free agency in the draft. And if Trubisky continues to play poorly, the team can switch to former Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles at quarterback. Overall, the team isn't great, but the talent is there, and I think the roster has improved just enough to sneak into the playoffs. The NFC is deep all around, and it was pretty hard to make those picks, but the AFC is probably going to be a bit more top-heavy this season. Anyway, let's get to it. The number 1 seed in the AFC will be who else but the reigning champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. Do I need to explain? Patrick Mahomes is quite possibly the most talented QB the league has ever seen, and he's going to do nothing but improve. Andy Reid is one of the best and most innovative coaches in football. The team has come back from huge deficits in big games, the defense has quietly become a very solid unit, and the offensive skill players are just insane, and they drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire at running back. Other than coronavirus canceling the season, I really just can't imagine how this team could possibly be stopped. The 2 seed in the AFC is going to be the Baltimore Ravens. This team has consistently been one of the best in the AFC ever since their move from Cleveland over 20 years ago, and this year's team should be no exception. Lamar Jackson is a dual threat who's fun to watch and impossible to defend, and as always, the defense is formidable. Considering that they have the league's easiest schedule as of now, a playoff appearance is practically guaranteed for the Ravens. I think the 3rd seed in the AFC is going to be the AFC South champion, but who that team's going to be is really a toss-up at this point. We know the Jaguars are going to be bad, but the Colts, Titans, and Texans all have a shot to win the division in my opinion. I'm going to go with the Colts here. Even though Phillip Rivers is pretty washed up at this point, they've got some talent on offense, and they have a decent defense, especially with the addition of DeForest Buckner. The New England Patriots will be the AFC East champions and the 4th seed in the AFC. Obviously, Tom Brady's departure was a huge blow to the team, and as a result, a lot of fans and analysts are predicting a lot of doom and gloom for the Pats. Frankly, I'll believe it when I see it. First of all, Bill Belichick is a coaching genius who not only has won 6 Super Bowls, but also squeezed an 11-5 season out of Matt Castle. The defense is still a very good unit, and at QB, Cam Newton's no Brady, but he's a proven starter who can win games. And perhaps most importantly, the AFC East sucks. 9 wins probably gets you the division title when you're up against the Bills, Jets, and Dolphins. I don't think the Patriots are about to replicate their Brady-era success, but there's no doubt in my mind that they can go at least 9-7 in 2020. The 5th seed wildcard team is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh defense last year was nothing short of fantastic, but the offense struggled mightily and the team finished with a .500 record. We've seen the great things this offense can do when Big Ben, James Conner, and Juju Smith-Schuster are healthy, so now that this defense will have a little bit of help on the other side of the ball, there's reason to believe these 2020 Steelers could do great things. At the 6th seed, we have the Tennessee Titans, a team that proved time and time again last year that they can hang with some of the best teams in the league. They had a great run game powered by Derrick Henry and were able to get the most out of Ryan Tannehill, a QB who has been mediocre at best throughout his career but thrived in a game manager role with Tennessee. However, running backs regress quickly in this league, and decent seasons have been the exception, not the rule for Tannehill. I think they'll have another decent 9-win playoff season, but I'm not sure if this team will be able to have any sustained success. To close things off, we've got a little bit of a hot take. The 7th seed in the AFC will be the Las Vegas Raiders. once the playoffs roll around and this prediction turns out to be way off, you can laugh at me all you want, but for now, just listen. The Raiders had a very difficult schedule and a pretty bad roster last year, but they stayed in the playoff race until the very last day of the season. This offseason, the Raiders loaded up on defense through free agency, grabbing some great guys such as linebackers Corey Littleton and former Bear Nick Kwiatkowski. None of the signings were big-name stars, but they're all really solid players and provide a lot of depth for a team that needs it. I think the free agent signings and the new 7th playoff slot means the Raiders are going to be playing in January. Before I let you guys go, I'm going to quickly go over some of the teams that I don't see making the playoffs, and I'll briefly explain why they won't make it. The Cardinals and Broncos are two very popular playoff picks this year. Although both teams seem to have bright futures, I'll believe it when I see it, and I don't think this is their year quite yet. The Vikings had some massive free agent losses in the offseason, including wide receiver Stephon Diggs and a ton of defensive stars. They had a pretty good draft, but I think they're gonna need a year to rebuild on the fly. The Falcons are capable of beating any team in the league, but they play in a really tough division and they're wildly inconsistent. The Bills benefited from a very easy schedule in 2019, and I think they're due for a regression. The Cowboys' defense wasn't great last year, and I guess I just have a gut feeling they missed the playoffs. And finally, I'd like to apologize to all the little kids in Cleveland who watch this channel, but the Browns are not going to make the playoffs this year, and deep down, you know it too. So, I guess that concludes my 2020 NFL playoff predictions. Hopefully I'll be right, but as long as we actually have a full season, I honestly don't really care what happens. Wash those hands and wear your mask, and maybe, just maybe, we'll get to watch a little football this year. Thanks for watching. Go Bears.